And so, of course, I went all deep throat. You can't say that, can you? But anyway, look, after the death of its president, Mr. Hayisi,
Mm.
the big question now is what happens next in Iran? What will it look like? Now, some would say, we need look no further than Iraq.
Mm.
When Saddam Hussein was alive, albeit with an iron fist, he controlled the whole country. And Iraq is formed by different tribes in that region, in that area.
Mm.
It's very tribal.
Yeah.
And they constantly bicker with each other, the tribes. Because they it's a little bit like Africa.
Yeah.
Lots of little tribes, and they bicker with each other. And that's why the Middle East is such a volatile place.
Yeah.
Because if one tribe sneezes, the other one wants a sort of recompense, if you like.
Yeah.
But anyway, Hussein said to George Bush before he was murdered, before Hussein was murdered. I say murdered because there were no weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
If you remove me from power, you'll end up in hell. And Hussein said this to George Bush. Hussein knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Because he had to rule with an iron fist to control all of the tribes. And once Bush took him out, the Sunnis started going against the Shiites. The Shiites started going against the others.
Yeah.
And then the US was in Iraq for nearly 20 years. Trying to unravel, trying to sort everything out.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've sorted it out even yet. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The same could be said about Colonel Gaddafi in Libya. In Libya, the majority of the population in Libya loved Gaddafi. But he too had to rule with an iron fist to control the whole of the population because it's fragmented.
Yeah.
And now Libya is a worse place today than it was before the powers that be went in there and murdered Gaddafi.
Yeah.
I say murdered because he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, yeah.
Well, he didn't. He ruled with an iron fist, right? So there you are. He knows why he had to.
Yeah.
We from the West can't look at a country and say it's wrong he's ruling with an iron fist because they know what the problems are. They live there.
Yeah.
They have to do it. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. No. Okay.
So with the political vacuum left behind by Raisi,
yeah,
will there be tribal confrontations again? Now, Iran, and I only found this out the other day, and mainly because somebody in one of the groups that I frequent was on about Persia and how Persia was Iraq and Iranians and
However, yeah.
And the person that who sent the post mixed up the Iranians with the Aryans of Europe, right? But anyway, and Persia was the Fars region of Iran. It was the Western government that called the rest of Iran Persia, but it wasn't. It was always called Iran. But anyway, but there are only about five different groups in Iran, and between themselves, they are mainly peaceful.
Yeah.
It's only when you get to the top echelons of politics that they start to get a little bit snotty with each other.
Yeah. Well,
which you know, they could cause a problem internally in Iran. Many experts, many experts are saying that for foreign policy of Iran, nothing much will change.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the supreme leader Khomeini who was killed in the helicopter crash.
Yeah.
It was only the president, and the president is only an internal politician. It's the supreme leader that does all the foreign policy. So there you have it. You know, it looks like the West might have swerved out the way of a bullet with this helicopter crash, as long as the Iranians can. There aren't any manifestations of internal warlording as of yet. Many people say that when the supreme leader he dies, eventually he will, then perhaps there may be a certain amount of tumultuous activity, should we say, in Iran, as the five tribes battle it out amongst themselves to find out the way forward for their country.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. It's interesting what you say about Saddam Hussein. Remembering that as a friend of this channel, he's related to some politician there. Okay, it's relatively stable at the moment, Iraq is, but as you're right, Saddam Hussein had a way of ruling. And yeah, I mean, he did with the Kuwait, and some people said he should have been dealt with then. That would have been very, very difficult at the time. And the psychology of the troops on the ground there, the Americans and others, that they were just playing, you know, they could have annihilated the Iraqis, which, you know, was not the end game. I mean, they had to react to something there. They liberated Kuwait, job done, end of story. Yeah, Saddam Hussein, yeah, I mean, it is strange. He's probably, in their own terms, not in our terms, one of the most liberal leaders in the region. You could have any religion you wanted if you stayed within the lines, yeah? I mean, in his cabinet, okay, he wasn't a very nice guy, but he had a Christian serving in his cabinet, an open Christian, Saddam Hussein did, yeah? He kind of was quite tolerant in many ways, wasn't loved. I mean, yeah, I mean, we have a different definition of how things function. Yeah, you're quite right. Our view of democracy doesn't really work across Europe, the rest of Europe, let alone across the Middle East sometimes. So I know, yeah, you know what I'm saying there. Certainly not into Asia or other regions. Yeah, because of the factions. You're quite right. A majority of people on the ground normally walk around different sets. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've got different flavors of Islam, for instance. Yeah, which is the case here. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, I believe there's more deaths of Islams that got in the hands of other Islams than anything else there. Yeah.
When you talk about Islam, you may as well talk about a Christianity. Yeah, where you've got different degrees of being an Islamist, I suppose is a word.
Yeah, I was going to come
like I said in another podcast, I've been to Morocco and I've been to Casablanca, I've been to Marrakesh, and it's not the whole population that's going to bow down on the prayer mat at the same time. You got Moroccans that drink, you've got Moroccans that
of course.
look for the young girls to do the
Yeah.
naughty with in
Yeah.
Morocco, which Islam doesn't allow. And
Well,
but the religion is another thing. Is
yeah.
another
What I'm
thing.
saying, yeah. I mean,
I
well, I
digress.
get, yeah, I'm coming back to this. Iraq didn't really care about religion. The Iranian regime, it's all about religion as well. Religion and politics are very intertwined. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I'm going with it. Yeah, I was going to bring up that to Christianity as well, but yeah, you're quite right. And they have a very, very strict Islamic code on the face of it. Yeah, whether or not everyone
Be,
adheres
be,
to it on.
be, because of the supreme leader.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a big priest, really, or a big
Yep.
whatever you want to call it. Yeah, he does two things: the politics and the religion, the faith. I mean, theoretically, we have the same in the UK with the monarch.
Yep.
The monarch is actually in charge of the Church of England. Yeah, which is okay as a Catholic from Britain, and all that. Spiritually, I don't look to the monarch for my spiritual guidance. Yeah,
No.
I look elsewhere. The Holy See, the infallible Pope. Yeah, okay, that's
Yep.
a bit careful. I go down that road. Yeah, it's a no. Okay, so that's just stability. Okay, Iraq. The problem is, yes, there had to be something done about Iraq at the time. There had to be something done about Afghanistan because it was affecting the world. Not so Iraq, but yeah, there was a threat there. We all knew that there were no WMDs. We all knew, the population did. Again,
Yep.
it wasn't even a case of mind control. We had 2 million people protests in London saying, we don't want this war. It's going to destabilize the region. It did for a time in Iraq, but Iraq is, as I said, relatively peaceful now. They've got democracy. Like I said, a friend of this channel, I think, his relative is the leader of the opposition, I believe. Whatever the opposition accounts for is there. Yeah. Iraq. Yeah, we're seeing there's various podcasters from based in the UK who have Iranian connections who are saying different things. There's videos coming out. There's going to be some rioters. Some people are throwing rocks at the moment. Yeah. Now, it's can the regime keep what they would consider stability there? We might not like it. Can they keep stability there? Do we actually want another country in the Middle East that's unstable? Of course we don't. We've got problems with Syria. Obviously we've got other problems, issues elsewhere as well. I mean, when you look at pictures from the 1970s of Iran, I'm not joking, it could be downtown Manhattan, quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People were smiling. They weren't in the streets yelling and everything else. They were smiling. The kids were happy at school. I'm not saying it wasn't totally westernized. They had their own form of it. But yeah, when you look at pictures, I know pictures are difficult and it's all in context and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, watch films and people talking about the time there. Yeah, and there's the other thing about Lebanon as well. Again, that went the same way. I mean, people have a right to be governed how they want. And as you're saying, with Iraq was quite a nice country at one point. We're under Saddam Hussein, given that us Westerners created Saddam Hussein, we created the conditions for him. Remember, he was in the Good Boys Club once, as was Gaddafi. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I mean, Gaddafi is a slightly different case. Gaddafi was, in a strange way, supporting world terrorism. He was a little bit of a problem. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. I think I've mentioned this before to you. A little after 9/11, in the US.
Mm.
Colonel Wesley Clark gave an interview
Mm.
to a lady journalist.
Yeah.
And he said that he went to the Pentagon one day
Mm.
after 9/11, and a young guy, came into him and he said,
Mm.
Sir, have you seen this? The US is going to war.
Mm.
And he said, oh, yeah. He said, yes, 7 countries in 5 years. And he labeled them. He labeled them: Iraq,
Yeah.
Iran, Syria,
Mm.
the Gaddafi, Libya.
Mm.
And he mentioned these 7 countries.
Mm.
And it was almost like, they had that axis of evil that George
Yeah.
Bush. Yeah, it's just like that. It was
Oh,
just
yeah.
like that. And so it isn't a case of all of a sudden this happened. It's been in the books for a long time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have
I,
a plan.
I would argue before 9/11. I would argue before 9/11.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think the administration orchestrated what happens on 9/11 because it's a bit
No,
clumsy.
I'm just saying that the plan was in place.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's sensible to have. I mean, what you can do is war game or whatever you want to do the tabletop exercise. If something atrocity happens, what would our reaction be in this region, that region, and that region? I believe the US even have a a plan of how they deal with the UK if it went rogue, whatever rogue
Yeah, of
would
course.
be. Yeah, yeah, it's a. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's sensible to have a plan of action. With any military campaign, it's important to have a battle plan. It's almost vital to have an exit plan, either if it goes wrong or at the end of it. Once you've achieved your end goals, what do? You can't go into a country, then leave it to sort itself up, pick up the pieces and sort itself out again. But you can't enforce your own values on it. You've got to try and keep it, do the administration on it. It is not. I mean, going to war should be the last result. The trouble is, it appears to be the first result at the moment. I mean, yeah. I sent you the headline. I sent you the headline on the Telegraph today about the last in the UK. We'll probably run to other things. Okay, there. Yeah. It will be a. Yeah, this could be the last election before war. That's a headline in the UK.